discuss more now with Andriy Dobryansky. He's the Director of Communications and Media with the organization Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Thank you so much for joining us. First, wanted to get your reaction to President Zelensky outright confirming the counteroffensive that we've been waiting for has begun.
And those of us who've been watching online eagerly have already seen these early probing attacks. That's what basically everybody's been poring over: satellite images, different reports from both sides of the media landscape over in Ukraine, in terms of some Russian sources as well, people trying to figure out what's happening. And you'll notice that the president correctly described this as a counteroffensive in a defensive manner, which means that anything on Ukraine's territory is necessarily going to be defensive, as we're trying to get the country back.
And are you surprised at all by how openly he's discussed the counteroffensive in a general sense without getting into too specific of details?
No, I mean, again, a lot of these probing attacks have been happening, I would say, at least a week since the beginning of June outright. It's about time that the president said something. It would get awkward after a while of not commenting on it. And we haven't seen the full counteroffensive. But again, these probing attacks, some of which have led to some loss of equipment, some loss of some casualties. But in terms of every military advisor and expert I've spoken to, this is what happens before you see a major attack, kind of what we're all thinking about if we've seen, D-Day and other movies.
And how much significance are you putting into this counteroffensive in terms of it potentially being a turning point in this war?
I think the major thing, and we can talk a little bit about the tragedies that have happened over the last week, is that we're seeing the reaction from Russia to this counteroffensive. Obviously, they cannot maintain their positions, and instead of being actually worried about the positions they've acquired, they've said that they've annexed all these territories, that these are technically Russian territory. We do not see any resources being put towards the citizens of this territory, whether it's actual Russian territory in Belgorod, that Russian province to the north of Ukraine that's had some internal squabbles, that Russia will not send any defense positions to help them out, nor in the areas in the south of Ukraine where neither they are helping out in terms of the population and their electricity, water needs, but also just not responding at all in terms of the people who've been suffering the most from that explosion of the hydroelectric power plant.
And I do want to talk about the fallout from that major dam collapse. We talk about how dire it is for Ukrainians in that area right now. We've seen the video of the water levels and people in boats trying to rescue the dogs and the cats who have been left behind. What do people need there most right now? And really, how bad is it for people on the ground?
This is one of the worst things we've seen on Ukraine for a very long time. Some experts in Ukraine are comparing this to the long-term fallout of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster as well. We can't really put into numbers right now how long this agricultural territory or populated territory will be off limits for humans. No potable water for many, many acres around. All of that water has been contaminated. Well water primarily in rural areas. You're not supposed to drink that water. You mentioned the phenomenal videos of the rescues happening. Ukraine has its own version of the Cajun Army out there helping out, in addition to the emergency services. And yes, we've seen those animals, but let's not forget about the fact that an entire city zoo was drowned in less than 24 hours. None of those animals got out. There are plenty of people who are incarcerated in those areas. None of those people were taken out, especially on the Russian-occupied side. And the worst thing of all is that we have seen literally nothing. We can see through satellite images or video monitoring what's happening on the Russian-occupied side. No helicopters coming in from Russia to rescue these people. You've seen the dramatic videos of Ukrainian emergency services dropping down people, dropping water down, or going down in or rope lines to save people. That is not happening on the Russian side. And we're talking about tens of thousands of people who are potentially at risk.
Just incredible. And as you said, a very long road ahead to get that area back to being livable for anyone, animals, people, the like. Andriy Dobryansky with the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.